We're going to start out with a little icebreaker because I love that. What one word best describes your current feelings about AI? So let's get a sense of where everybody's at today, and then we'll do some introductions and get started. So throw that in the chat. What one word best describes your feelings about AI? It's funny. There's Rhode Island. I mean, that's what I think about too, right, Roger? Providence, Rhode Island.
It's a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place.
And also Brazil. I mean, my family used to live there, so in Rio. So I love Guaraná, the soda, and all the amazing food. It's incredible. So yeah. But
you have been around the world. So don't quiz Roger on geography. Look at all these coming in. I love it. Optimistic, fatigued, curious, amazed, hopeful, smart. Boom, conflicted. Oh,
potential.
Mind
I see a
boggle.
potential in there.
I do. Excitement and curious. There's an all caps there, Roger, with an excitement. Horrified. This is going to be good. So mesmerized, ubiquitous. Look at these big words. Thank you for all the big words. Okay, for those of you using a dictionary, stop that right now. Make sure your comments are simple things I can pronounce later. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. So I am Susie Hall. I'm president of community and customer engagement here at Aquent. I've been here 25 years, and I do a little fun thing called Inside Out, which is a community for senior design leaders that I lead for Aquent. And through peripherally that, I got to meet this guy, and I hope he's on the same side as he is for you, but I got to meet Roger, and I've never looked back from that moment. So Roger, thank you so much for being here today. Who are you?
Well, thank you. And again, so great to be here. I mean, your energy and your passion for all that we do in design and even what you're doing through Aquent is so infectious. And I just want to tell you, thank you for spreading all that amazing positivity in the world. So yeah, so my name is Roger Rohatgi, if some of you are joining and you don't know me. And I have been a designer and a design leader for many years. I spent the last 25+ years in design. So started off in graphic design back in the 90s, and then quickly moved into web, and then into Flash, and that was a thing back then. It was crazy because I always say this, but so some of you may have heard this, but I mean, I remember being a young creative director, designing this Flash website and leading this team and stuff. And it was an amazing site. It had all these special effects and sound effects, and it opened up and did all these things on every click. But in the United States, there was no high-speed internet back then, so it took 15 minutes to load. So it was my introduction to what good user experience should be. That wasn't called UX back then, but yeah, because I mean, I created the most amazing site that nobody ever saw. So user experience, big part of my early story there. And so just getting deeper into UX, took a little pivot and wrote a film and produced that and won an International Film Award. And then which was an incredible experience in itself. And then went into television and helped launch the first social television network in the United States. Some of the people that were part of that was like Mark Burnett, who created Survivor and The Voice. And yeah, it was an incredible time. Some of those interactive experiences went into, Verizon and, experiences from MTV to ZTV in India for all those that get ZTV. And I created Z Dilse, which if you saw that on TV years ago, that was a pretty cool thing, innovative, I guess, for the time. And then, yeah, some of it went into the app, I think, called Vine, which was a precursor to TikTok and stuff. But it led me deeper into digital, the rise of social and mobile, and these experiences that the world was starting to get through the screens that are in front of us, right? Because I always say that there's real people on the other end of all these devices that are, and how do you design for the silver screen or the small screen on your wrist or even the mobile device in your hand, right? And so you have to put humans at the center of that. And so led design at different companies and even like Motorola. And then BP had reached out to me at the end of 2019 and asked me to come join there. I joined as the first design leader in their 100-year history and set up design all over the world with hundreds of designers. And yeah, it was an incredible journey. I got a chance to launch sustainable design and inclusive design. But one of the things I thought was quite interesting for today's topic was an area that we started exploring last year, where we started looking at going beyond just digital twins of our assets or our business entities or things, but looking at digital twins of our customers and creating those digital twins of our customers. And we partnered with a group called Fantasy, which is an agency, as well as Harvard, and we did the first, I think, documented AI design sprint, and we began to look at these what we called synthetic humans as a way for us to see how we could interact with AI customers, if you will, and get that rich feedback when we couldn't get to our customers. And it lended to all sorts of kind of amazing things that we learned. It's now going to be taught as one of the first business case studies in Harvard Business School around this. And yeah, it was really cool to be there speaking about it this year in Harvard as well. So that really spawned this passion and desire to really get deeper into to some of these concepts that I was seeing from this, or even having ideation from before, and all the emerging tech that's happened over the years that I was involved in or saw.
I love it. And so I just learned a lot about you, Roger. I did. I checked out your LinkedIn, and I've talked to you a number of times now, but wow, that is a lot of exposure to an emerging space that is going cool places. So before you blow everyone's minds with some thoughts about the future, you've just given some history when it comes to the history of Roger, but how in the world did we get here when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting, right? I mean, I'm by no means, and the ultimate authority on AI historicism or whatever.
Whoa! Stop everything.
You might be, but, but I will say that there are some things I've learned along the way that I thought it'd be kind of fun to share. I last year looked at first the UX timeline and just the history of UX, and then I overlaid that on top of the history of AI and all the big, monumental breakthroughs or things that have happened over the years. And it was quite interesting to watch that or see that together. And some of the things I found was quite interesting. I mean, if you look at UX and emerging tech, I mean, a lot of this stuff, people point all the way back to 4000 BC to feng shui, to the 500 BC, the ancient Greeks, and the Gutenberg press in the 1400s, Pascal and his, quote unquote mechanical calculating in the 1600s. But really, it was the 1900s, early 1900s, where the Industrial Revolution and Taylorism began to rise and things began to change dramatically at a rapid pace for us, right? So if we think about next year, or almost about to be at 2025, if we think about what's happened 70 years back, right? And it's quite interesting because actually before that, a little bit further, Alan Turing came up with his Turing machine and the Turing test in 1950. And some of that was kind of the precursor to what we have today and the computers we have today. But the journey of user experience and emerging tech was intertwined, right? Because you had in the 70s and 80s, the rise of and start of Apple and Microsoft, and you had design thinking rising in the 80s as well. And then of course in 1993, Don Norman was coined as the first user experience designer, if you will, in Apple. And interestingly enough, that was also the same year that the World Wide Web released, Tim Berners-Lee. And there was this journey going on. But in the 70s and 80s, during that time of the rise of these computers and all the different computing that we have today, there were two AI winters that slowed AI down because of either people didn't believe it was going to take off, or that it was going to work, or they were afraid of it. And there was a lot of fear around it, of what it could do. And they actually started seeing some of the progress. And so they kind of began to throttle. So the first one was in the 1970s and the second one was in the 80s, the second AI winter. But when we came out of that, things have just continued to rise, right? And so you've seen, from there, responsive web design to, mobile, the rise of mobile and YouTube and, UGC and all these things, right? And iPod and music and how we've been streaming and all, just all these things, all the way to remote collaboration now and just this journey, right? But when you look at November 30th, 2022, that was a significant date. And I think history will look back at this date, because that was the date that I believe the AI in the world did not become aware, but the world became aware of AI. And that was the launch of ChatGPT as we know it today publicly, where people went, just bananas trying to grab a hold of that, and it changed everything, right? And so there was all these different things that were rising through the years. But there was one year that was quite interesting, which was in 1955, which I found was quite wild, because in that year, I'll tell you a couple things. So that year was pretty interesting. So Bell Labs was working on user experience for the phone keypad, but there was a gentleman named William Shockley who led who led Bell Labs early on and came back or whatever. But he started the rise of the silicon chips that we see today, and so that was how Silicon Valley was, birthed. And you have Intel, AMD, and all these things that have come out of this now because of the work that was happening there. That was really originating in 1955. MIT had created the first keyboard to a computer, and it was quite interesting. But one of the things that I thought was fun was like Disneyland opened in California, McDonald's opened. So we have 70 years to blame of 1955 of McDonald's. No, I'm kidding.
Or to thank. I mean, depends on
or to thank. Legos system was created, Velcro, the atomic clock, microwave was released to the world, all that interesting stuff. But here's where it got really interesting. So that year, Henry Dreyfuss wrote the book Designing for People. It's kind of one of the first books on user experience, I guess, if you will, without calling it UX. And he wrote that around designing for people and making that around, building around human centricity. That same year, John McCarthy calls thinking machines artificial intelligence and coins the term artificial intelligence in a document that he wrote at Dartmouth College for the 1956 gathering of all these people to, be the birthing of what's going to happen with AI. So in 1955, Designing for People, Henry Dreyfuss, same year, AI is coined. Artificial intelligence is coined. Yeah, it was wild. Well, and that year, just for fun, Steve Jobs was born, Bill Gates was born, Eric Schmidt of Google was born, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the internet, was born.
Yeah.
Einstein died, which was quite interesting. And actually, Alan Turing died the year before. And it was quite interesting because he had created, ENIAC, which was one of the first computers, and he died by eating a cyanide poisoned apple. So I don't know if there's any correlation with the apple, but anyway, but it was quite interesting, and the controversy around that. So, I mean, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all these people were born. Einstein dies. Doc Brown goes back to the future in 1955, right? Invents the flux capacitor. Howard Stark in Marvel was working on the ion fusion reactor, and so there's some interesting things there. And
but wait, last I hear thing, you saying, last thing, go ahead.
Well, last thing, the first alien sighting that was documented in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, happened in 1955. So I don't know if there's any correlation there or not. But anyway.
Okay, aliens. You heard it here first. Aliens. That's what AI is, right? No, we're done. We finished that up, right?
Some people.
So what I hear you saying is we need to build a time travel machine, like a real time travel machine, and go back to 1955, and we could figure out a lot of things.
I need a DeLorean.
You need a DeLorean. So anybody who's here who has a DeLorean that you're willing to give to Roger, he's in. He wants it.
You can do 1.21 gigawatts, right? You can do the whole thing. Yeah,
of course you did that. Hey, that's a perfect tie-in to where we're going next, because I'm super excited about this. So all the history in getting us here is fantastic and scary all at the same time, like how everything is converging. But reality is, there are some implications, I imagine, for us humans.
Yeah, no. So
in this scenario, what does this mean for us?
Yeah,
here we are with AI.
Yeah, I think we're going to begin to see some interesting things happen starting. Well, it's already started, but starting this next year. And you might see things, and I was talking about this last year, and I called it real-time personalized UI, where the UX and the UI will start changing right in somebody's hand on their mobile device, depending on who they are or what they need, even over and over again. And it will generate its own user interface. Now, somebody this year, I think, called it generative UI, which I thought was a cool way to say that. So, but something, when I was looking at that last year, I realized that, there's going to be this convergence, and that convergence is going to take us into a whole new realm where, UX today has been about, just like Henry Dreyfuss said, designing for people, right? So it's humans designing for how, humans interact with the world and what humans need and humans want. But in the future, AI could be designing on what they think humans need or want. And that shift and that change is going to be something that I call the rise of AX, which is the artificial experience, and how that will reshape even the user experience. And that AX, which is quite interesting, is going to be like a game changer for our lives, I think, and then it's already beginning to happen, because the more we leverage AI to help design and research our experiences for humans, the less human-led perhaps our experiences could ultimately be. And so what I found was that if UX over all those years changed the world to this point, AX could change it for the future. And this new artificial experience might rise. And you might go from design thinking to artificial thinking. You might go from, obviously design-led to artificial-led, and human-centric to artificial-centric or AI-centric. But our UX patterns will become AX prompts, as they already are. Product designers can become prompt designers and so forth. So you might see this whole evolution and change that will happen. And so there will be usages of artificial experiences as services in places of apps. You might see artificial experiences that come through immersion through the metaverse, and all of these experiences are going to be created by AI, and we're going to be interacting with these, not knowing that they were created by AI. And so I think that's where it's going to get really interesting. And so I call that, like, if you take the metaverse and VR, AR, XR, and you add it with AI, I called that before the metavergence, where these things are all converging together. To bring about something quite interesting, which is a concept that I didn't create. Actually, it was quite interesting that it rose, and somebody coined the term, Emily Wapnick, multi-potentialite or multi-potentiality. And that is something that, I mean, if you want, we can get into, but I think there's.
Well, wait. I must pause, because I think that the AI is not liking what you have to say and is freezing some people's screens. Remember how we thought maybe we were going to break the internet with all this knowledge and energy coming together at one time? We may have broken the internet. So just real quick call out for anyone who's frozen right now, but able to chat, because I see chats coming through here. Please refresh your screen. And a couple of people said rejoining the call should do this. This will be recorded. It is being recorded. So we will send this out later as well. So AI can't win this one, right, Roger?
Well, I mean, then again, AI might think that maybe they don't want this information out.
So exactly. I think you're exposing some concepts that AI is not pleased with. AI apparently has already begun designing LinkedIn Live experiences, and this is the new LinkedIn Live experience. I'm just kidding. So I do not want to leave multi-potentialities, because the first time you said that to me, I tried to write it down and I literally couldn't spell it. But I love this concept of multi-potentialities. What does that look like?
Yeah, so multi-potentiality refers to, well, people that are multi-potentialites could be people that have, various needs, wants, gifts, skills, abilities, and they have this multi-potentiality of doing more than just one singular particular activity. And Emily Wapnick and some others had kind of, coined this and studied this, but I wanted to take it further, actually, in some of my research, and I was looking at it from the lens of AI. And what I think could be coming is not just creating like the digital twins of the things I mentioned, including digital twins of our customers that I mentioned, like synthetic humans,
right?
But it could be the digital twins of ourselves, right? So AI versions of our own self, which creates this this interesting multiplicity of our abilities really fast. And so I call that digital omnipresence, which has the potential rise of people having multiple avatars, digital personas that show up in all sorts of kind of different ways, capable of performing tasks that are different, learned behaviors and interests, right? So it's kind of like, so imagine like, I don't have to go to this Teams call. I can not, and it doesn't just, AI doesn't just take notes like at work, but actually my other version of myself can go to that call and answer questions and interact as if it was me, right, in the future. And then I could have other things where, all of my emails are managed. There's, I personalize customer service to me or with my voice or to others, or it could generate content based upon my writing style and do all my administrative tasks. But it also can not just attend meetings, but create materials for the action items that come out of those meetings. So right now we'll get a summary of action items from AI,
right?
But we still have to go do the work.
Yeah.
But imagine in our multi-potentialites or these other versions of us in AI, it would just automatically just output and say, here is the presentation that was asked for in this, right? And so all these versions of ourselves, you can see them in not just in and teams and things like that. But they could be running secondary businesses for me on the side, and side hustles, or it could be generating virtual coins and credits in Roblox or whatever. And there's a version of me in there or wherever, or some virtual space. So many of these, and you might begin to see that companies, won't just hire you for you, but in the future they may hire you for all the versions of you, and
Yes.
they start seeing that multi-potentiality, right?
So wait, do all of the multi-potentiality, I can't do it. Do all of them get paid individually? Like, did we just like scale our income?
So imagine a world, right, where they're like, whatever I did today as a job, maybe
Yeah.
I'm not making money off of that, or I'm not part of that anymore, or whatever, because things have changed. But I have these other versions of myself in different virtual worlds or places, or doing tasks that could generate income, or could generate virtual coins or credits or whatever, that can then turn into income. Or it could get me further along with something that could then ultimately generate income,
Yeah.
right? Because it's doing sales tasks for me, or it's
Yeah.
cold calling, or doing all sorts of kind of things that
Yes.
generate leads that could bring in, right?
I love it. So you can just find all the things that you don't really like to do, and then train up an AI, a digital twin, to be able to do that job. Funny you say that, Roger. I have an actual twin, an identical twin. And I
Really?
think each of us have half a brain. One of us got the math and science. That was not me. And the other one got like the language and people part. So together we're one person. So I've been testing this in real life for a while, but I think I have a lot of digital twins I would want to create to get paid separately. So we have a question here. So I would like for us to put up a question from earlier, and here it is. Ready, Roger? This is directed to you. Do you think everyone with a tech skill should take AI seriously by learning it deeply? So if you're familiar with technology, should you jump into AI and do everything you can?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, it depends, right? So I think everybody is going to have some interaction with AI and some kind of knowledge, even if you're not in tech. This is happening with children in schools. This is happening with all sorts of kind of other people. Even my mom, I think, is on ChatGPT or something. So everyone's interacting. She's
Yeah.
very smart. But I think, yeah. So if you're in tech, I mean, it's obvious that you need to know more and more about AI and the use cases of it, and then how others can use it. And if you're in design, you could help design a future where we use responsible design for AI, where we build in, hopefully some human empathy and the right, or removing bias and the right, focuses on what AI will ultimately do with humans. But I think, yeah, you could dive in deeper. But if I'll give you an example, and I might talk about him later too. But my son,
Yeah.
who's 11, one of my sons, he's building, I think, one of his first games in Roblox, and he was doing all this code and trying to, make these interactions in there, and then he just accelerated really fast. And I said, "Well, hey, hold on, how'd you get all this built?" And he goes, "Oh, I just hit ChatGPT, and it wrote all the code for me and all these
No.
different things, and now I can build these games faster, or this world faster." And so, he's not in a tech job yet, or he's in a tech company, but he literally saw the usage of AI to
Yeah.
do a very specific tech role, but then it created something in his imagination that even AI didn't have, but it helped him bring that to life. So I thought that was really cool.
Yes, that is fascinating. We have another question here too, and I think that this kind of ties into where being lots of places at once. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one up now. So your Instagram, YouTube presence, et cetera, will be created by your AI potential. So will AI be creating your presence
Yeah. So,
on social media?
so it's a good question. I think there's two sides to this. One is, could it create your presence, and what could it do with that? I think at first you will create, and then it will train off of you, and then you will allow it to do things for you. I called it AI, as in artificial influencer. And
Ooh.
so your influencing will be done by AI, and they will post, or AI will post these, on your behalf, and these snippets of your content, which is already happening today. You can load in a video, it'll cut it all up in these snippets, and then it would,
Yeah.
schedule when it's going to go out in a timely manner or whatever. Or it could comment for you on the right relevant blog posts or tweets or whatever, that might be relevant to what you would say. And it just does
Yeah.
it for you based upon what you want, and you just send it out. So this is what I want. So you could see that happening.
Yeah.
The flip side is what I call multimorphic marketing, which you may see brands beginning to cater to not just you and your version of yourself in real life, but also all your AI versions. So they, so like I've said this before, but like I like, let's say I like to drink Coca-Cola in the real world, but in the virtual world, I like, virtual Pepsi or something. So brands will start to have to realize that, hey, wait a minute, it's not enough to just know all the details and use AI to know about this person and this demo or
Right.
even this demographic, but it's all the multi-potentiality around it, or I guess that view of multimorphism, which is the presence of multiple forms simultaneously. And
No.
that digital multiplicity becomes a need for a lot of protection around the data and a lot of other
Yeah.
things. So there's going to be quite an interesting thing that rises of success, hopefully for humans, but it will also come as a lot of things that we'll need to protect, right?
Wow. Yeah. No, I like that you added in security. I'm sure that's going to come up. And just a reminder, if you have questions, and I'm sure you have questions, if your mind is blown and you're just listening to Roger because he's delightful to listen to, that's okay too. But if you have any questions, please put those into the chat, because we definitely want to ask some questions. But speaking of which, multimorphic marketing blows my mind. So when you think about marketers right now and all the work they have to do to figure out like who each person is and what they like and appeal to that, and that's become more and more complex over time to think about, I become 10 people, 20 people, and so on. How many marketers will be needed in every team? Actually, don't answer that yet. I'm sure every marketer on this call has added into their annual plan, need a bigger marketing team. We're going multimorphic, right? Is that it?
Yep.
No?
Multimorphic.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, there's certainly a myriad of things that are going to happen as it relates to how brands will have to cater to all the versions of ourselves.
Right.
But the other side is marketing is obviously changing now, where they're going to leverage AI to be able to do a lot of that for you. So again, if you go back to the concept I was talking about, real-time, UI or generative AI or UI,
Yeah.
sorry, generative UI, you can begin to think that AI will start realizing what the marketing needs are of you, and it will change. We've always seen that, that predictive nature, and then it would change, right? Customize, but it's only going to get even deeper and deeper and deeper. And so you won't know really if what's feeding to you is actually feeding to anybody else. So, I mean, it's already kind of happening now, right? So my wife and I are both on Instagram. And so, it's just been recently that she and I, we share videos with each other, and we start sharing the same videos, and we're like, oh man, we're in the same algorithm now, somehow. And so, but that's going to change over time, right? They're going to learn more and more about who we are. And, so.
Sure. Yes, and you can already trick that out. So that seems even more complicated. You can be who you want to be in all these different places anyway. So who's to say you're really Roger?
Well,
I don't know.
I only want to make it easy for myself, so I've just sent my AI avatar here. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Because this is not at all like the conversation I thought we were going to have. I'm kidding. This is exactly like the conversation I thought we were going to have. And speaking of which, we have more questions.
Okay.
So here's a question from LinkedIn user. Hello, LinkedIn user. Are we going to see two sides of the coin and have companies who only want real people and authentic things, and the other side who won't bother about fake images of yourself? Will we see like two companies go in two different directions? One saying, no, we're going to be authentic and real. Hey, like I think Dove has done that already, right? The brand. But but will we see more of that?
Yeah, which I think Dove was created in 1955, by the way. So,
Stop it.
So, Dove bar or whatever. Anyway, the interesting thing is, I think, I think companies might market themselves that way, that they're being authentic. If this is human, this is, talk to a real human or whatever. But the reality is that all of them are looking at how they're going to use AI and leverage it. I think the key isn't necessarily like, will one company do it this way or another, which that's a very good question though, and they could, but it's more around transparency. So a brand needs to begin to show transparency on a way, and actually we need probably a standard for the world to know what is AI and what is not AI. So what is a different or AI version of me versus a real version of me as a company or as a human or as a personality. And that is going to be the key differentiator. And transparency is something that I'm not sure everybody's focused on or talking about right now as they're all working on AI. But without that, we won't know anymore what's real and what's not real. you know?
That's
And
terrifying.
you know, you actually, we were talking about this, a video like where somebody was doing an interview with an AI avatar
Yeah.
as the synthetic human, if you will,
Yeah.
speaking to them. And, you know, it almost looked really real. You know,
Yeah.
at some point, how would you know you're not talking to a real human? Even you can see them, they're responding to your questions and stuff, and it's adapting, and it's pretty
Yeah.
wild, you know?
Yes, that's Reid Hoffman for those who are on this call right now. Interviewing Reid,
Well, it was
Reid
actually a
AI,
job,
right?
that one too, but then there was a job interview. I think you and I were talking about
Oh.
or you sent me where somebody was actually
Oh, yeah.
answering questions on a job interview. Some of you may have seen that on LinkedIn. There's some video
Yep.
going around. And that's pretty wild. But I also think that there's another side to this really quickly around how it's going to be AI talking to AI at some point. Okay, so it's already kind of happening. So if you imagine this, right? So imagine a scenario where a procurement workflow, right, where somebody is a buyer in a company and they get bids. Somebody bids on that, and they have that material, and then they purchase that material, and then they do all this stuff to get it into the workflow, right? Now you'll see AI beginning to rise, and AI will select, it will review all those bids and select the best product from those bids. And then it will then trigger the product to be shipped to the location, track it all the way to whatever, the warehouse or the job site, and then integrate it into the workflow, right? All through an AI chain of events, right? And it might change things differently, but it's choosing on its own based upon a certain amount of, learning or whatever, right? But if you go to a flip side, then you'll begin to see that AI will start sending in the bids. So you'll have AI reviewing the job bids, and then AI creating the bids. And so AI and AI together.
I can't even hear that, Roger. I'm just kidding. No, but I do. I hear what you're saying. There are all these points that where AI can be inserted. Now, that leads us to the next question I'm going to share here. So Mark Cisco, hi, Mark. At what point does your AI avatar become a better version of you?
Well, I mean, anything could be a better version of me. So I just tell you that right now. But
I don't think that was for you specifically.
No,
I think Mark's
I
asking for himself.
I appreciate that, but I definitely felt it right here. No, but yeah, no, I mean, look, think about the things that we've done with medicine, right? Sports science, sports medicine, it's enhanced us to be better athletes. It's enhanced us. I mean, even with medical breakthroughs, with a lot of different things that have happened over the course of history, including, from the basic contact lens or the glasses you wear to the pacemaker. All these things have made us live longer and made us actually a better me. So could AI just be seen as the same thing, right? And actually, if I go back to the timeline in my head, right, of history, I was talking to somebody and he kind of pointed this out too, and I started thinking about it quite a bit. There are the three greatest, most impactful inventions or discoveries in the last 100+ years has been, number one, DNA and all the impact that is happening with what we've seen around humans and how we've learned about ourselves and stuff. Actually, not kidding, 1955, that's where they figured out the 46 chromosomes. And that's where they started the beginning of the enzyme that led to DNA sequencing and RNA and those things. So that's quite interesting. The second thing that's the most important, probably discovery impact of our time is obviously computing and computers and code, really about code and coding and creating that coding language and so forth. And then somebody pointed this out, but I think the final one is now, which is all about language. Language is the new code. And that's happening through all these language models and learning models that are learning on human language so that they can communicate as humans, with humans, for humans, on what humans need or want to create humans, that artificial experience, that AX. And so from the human code of DNA to the computer code of all the things that you've seen it rise to now the artificial code that's happening, or the AI code, that's really going to be the next change, massive step change for us as a society.
So I have a question for you, Roger. Do you sleep? Don't answer that. Maybe you have a different version of you.
That's right. I was going to say, so my avatar's sleeping, but I'm not.
Okay, good. Great. You need that, I think, for your brain. So there are a couple of questions. I'm going to put these together because I think we would be remiss in not addressing this. But thank you, Perrine, and also Lee, for asking questions. When there can be multiples of people, there are already maybe not enough jobs for people. So what happens to humans in the world where an AI or a multi-potentialite means that that job's taken by somebody that's not a human?
Yeah, so no, I saw that, and I mean, that's a good question. And there's some people
Yeah.
talking about redundancy, and even
Yep.
with my athlete example, like, hey, that doesn't make athletes redundant and so forth. Look, I mean, if you go back to the Industrial Revolution again, right, and Taylorism and the rise of Ned Ludd, who became known as the Luddite, right, and his Luddites led the revolution against the machines, right? And they didn't want the machines to take their jobs. And it was back then that began to start, right? And there's been other times in history when that's happened. And they led this revolution against the machines. And ultimately, those people started working on the machines that they created, that so their jobs changed to working on the machines. Now, where it gets tricky, right, is with AI. So before, in the Industrial Revolution, I think in my own mind, you have the machines come in. So those tasks that the people were doing, now the machines are doing, but now they had to manage and work and build out the machines and sell those machines and all that kind of stuff. They had a whole new careers, right? But the difference, I think, from then and AI is that AI is now able to work on its own self, or soon to be, right? So
Yeah.
that's the future, right? Potentially. So you could see, there are going to be moments potentially that things can get fully replaced. I don't know that for sure, but I will say this. I think that what I'm holding on to is the hope of the multi-potential light scenario, because then there's going to be a demand for all sorts of kind of tasks that can be done, that might be done with AI, and it just could be trained on my digital DNA, and it could be versions of myself doing it. So even though that task got replaced, it's many tasks that I can do now that expand my ability and give me that multi-potentiality of doing more, not less. But I don't have to do it with my hands. Now it's all my versions or my synths, right?
Yeah. I love that you bring a positive spin to this, because I really do think it's hard to not be overwhelmed by what could be replaced as opposed to what that now becomes possible. So one last question. We only have a few minutes left here. And just a reminder, if you put questions in the chat we did not get to you, we will have this chat later and you're going to have access to Roger. So we'll follow up with you as well. But here's a question. Thank you, Yusuf, for this one. I have a feeling that AI will make every transaction less unique. How can we still make a difference with processes that rely more and more on AI and limited randomness as opposed to natural divergence from user-generated action? So how do we keep things unique, Roger?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. And obviously the first phase of all this, you're going to see AI is they're going to find the standards, right? But as you know, we as humans, we are completely unique. And each one of us, right, have our own DNA that makes us different, right? And so I think in time, AI might get to that multimorphic view of how they relate to humans. But that uniqueness is going to be essentially ours for hopefully throughout history or for a time, and actually I've seen that. I started studying like what makes us human. And so there are 4 C's that I came up with. And if I can remember them, it was, humans are cultural, right? We have all these incredible experiences that we come together to celebrate, whether it's through rituals or worship or music or whatever that we might experience. We're very cultural. We're also compassionate, right? And we are, we have this empathy that makes us human. We are completely creative, right? And we have this awe and this sense of wonder. And there's another one I think I forgot, but we're connected, right? And so there's this place where I think all throughout history we've seen that these combination of things for humans all throughout the rise of all this other tech. And I hope that we will continue to use that and rely upon that to make us unique, and keep us unique and human, especially when you go to plays and theater and all those things that AI can't do yet. When you're experiencing that in real time, there's something really special about that and unique, and we need to celebrate and applaud that.
I love it. Yes. Thank you, Roger. I hesitate to get into another question because we have 2 minutes left, but I want to tell everybody on this call, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. Hopefully your mind is blown like my mind was blown when I talked to Roger the first time, and then the second time, and then the third time, and then this time. So please do reach out to Roger directly. He genuinely means it. He's might be one of the nicest people I know. He will get back to you, and he loves talking about this. So please do reach out to Roger after this. Right, Roger? Can you back me up there?
100%. Yeah, no, please reach out, hit me up on LinkedIn. I think somebody asked, is this being recorded? Yes, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much we didn't even get into.
We're going to talk every day, Roger. You said every day, right?
Yeah, well,
come back
we
tomorrow.
can do it again. If anybody wants us to come back and do another round of this, there's so much more to dive into. I'd love to tell you about some interesting things, especially about Gen Alpha, which maybe tease up another talk we have.
Yes. I love it. So if you're interested in seeing me and Roger do this again, please put that here in the chat for us to see later, so I can use that against Roger. Wait, which Roger? No, I can remind Roger later that this was a great use of time. So that and yes, there will be recording, as Roger just said. If you just come back to this event page, you will be able to see the recording there, along with all the chat that went along with that. And again, please do reach out and connect with us, because this is just the beginning of a conversation. Right, Roger?
Right, exactly. And very excited about being here. Thank you so much, Susie, and all of you. Like, you have so much potential, so much multi-potentiality inside of you to do great things. I just love that I got to connect with all real humans. And I want to thank you.
As far as you know, that's where I brought my AI.
Well, I wanted to do one thing, right? So we're going to end, but maybe just one last thing, just one.
Great,
last thing.
do it.
Let me see.
We're ready.
Okay, all right, hold on. Let me see here. I was going to try to do this with the camera. Let's see if I can do this. Well, I can't turn my camera off and on, so maybe I can. Okay, hold on. Can't do it. All right, but we're going to do it like this. So 1 second.
Ready? Okay. But pretend there's a curtain, everybody, and Roger's behind the curtain right now. Although I can see his arm.
There's a whole level of it. So, I mentioned Tony Stark, Howard Stark, but this right here is, could be the other version of me and us. At least I hope it is. And,
and on that note, thanks, Roger. We'll see you all tomorrow. Okay, bye.
See you later.